Catafalque Party. Halt.
Citizens of France, fellow Australians, at dawn a few hours ago, they gathered at the war memorials throughout New Zealand and across the Australian continent. There was a dawn service in Afghanistan where Australian servicemen and women make no prouder claim than that they belong to the Anzac tradition. At dawn on the Gallipoli Peninsula, thousands came to Anzac Cove. And now we gather here at dawn in France. All of us linked across the world by the same duty to honour and remember, and by the same sense of the loss and waste of war. We are part of a worldwide commemoration like no other. Why? Why do Australians make the pilgrimage in increasing numbers to remember tragic events that happened nearly 100 years ago, so far from home? Part of the answer lies in other questions. What manner of men were those we come to honour? They were, of course, young, many in their 20s, but they were all older than the nation itself, which had been created as the Commonwealth of Australia on the first day of the 20th century. The terrible 20th century, as Winston Churchill was to call it. About 1/5 of them had been born overseas, mostly in England, Scotland, Wales and Ireland. They were Australian Britons. The majority were Australian-born, of the first or second generation. The commander of the Australian Army Corps in France, the great General Sir John Monash, was a first-generation Australian of German Jewish parentage. This serves to remind us that we were then and remain today a nation of immigrants, that the more recent arrivals are part of our living history, and that all the history of modern Australia, including the story of Anzac, belongs to them equally wherever they were born. In short, they and their families were a cross-section of the Australian people. We know from abundant reports that they tended to be impatient of some of the traditional rules and regulations of the military system. We know that they were great improvisers. We know that the officers had to earn their respect, that they were instinctively egalitarian, that they placed the highest value on doing the right thing by your mates. They would not have said it this way, but may we not say that they gave a very practical, down-to-earth and very Australian expression to the ideals of the French Revolution: liberty, equality, fraternity. Above everything, they were volunteers. The more than 400,000 Australians who enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force, the Australian Army Nursing Service and the Royal Australian Navy, from a population of fewer than 5 million. All our First World War dead. Those 60,000, more than 46,000 lying here in France and Belgium, all of them were volunteers. They all volunteered to serve. It was by their decision, and indeed by the decision of the Australian people, confirmed twice at the ballot box. So we ask, why did they volunteer? The inscriptions on the countless war memorials around Australia give the official answer: for king and country, for the empire, for freedom. These unquestionably were deeply felt motives. But there is often a different emphasis in their letters home and the journals they kept, typically against regulations. Early in the war, at least, there is the sense of adventure, wonder even, like the 21-year-old from Queensland in Egypt, before setting off for Gallipoli, marvelling at the chandelier in the Great Mosque of Cairo, donated by Napoleon in 1798. After Gallipoli, the letters and journals record a growing pride in the achievements of an untried army alongside the great British and French armies. And running through their letters home, these are the constant themes: All my mates are here. Look after one another at home. And again, as they witnessed the ordeal of France, the suffering of the French people, they remarked how lucky we are in Australia. Through their eyes and words, we may see the deeper meaning of the Australian idea that our national identity was forged in the battlefields of Gallipoli and France, not only by their prowess and bravery, but by the immensity of the human tragedy called the First World War, the seminal catastrophe of our civilization. How could they not be changed in that crucible? How could this young nation not be changed with them and by them? Australia would never again be able to isolate itself from the affairs of the rest of the world. So the most heartfelt of the inscriptions on our war memorials is, "Lest we forget." The English poem, the recessional, from which it is taken, is more than a call to the duty of remembrance. It is also a warning against the arrogance of power. Today, we bear in our hearts and minds both meanings in this consecrated ground amidst the peace and beauty of France when we say, "Lest we forget."
Catapult party presents. Um. catafalque party, quick, march.